my passion lies within invoking emotion in people. I love getting people to feel something. I guess that's the first step into like being fully conscious, understanding where you're at in the world. So if I can get you to feel something, my hope is to get you one step closer to feeling other things and then learning from those feelings and becoming better because of it.
Welcome back to another episode of the CEO Talk. I took some time off as, you know, my life has really been a roller coaster, but I'm back and I'm so excited to have a special guest on today. He was a professional videographer turned content creator. His mission statement is to help people get from point A to point B by creating content that makes his audience really tick. He grew his Instagram from 3 to 120K in 1 month, while creating content that truly engages with people emotionally. Listen to learn more about the power of organic content, and let's welcome Ty Farago.
See you here?
Yeah, nice to see you here too. Thanks for doing this in-person podcast with me. It's the first one ever.
Yeah.
And helping me set up, being my guinea pig.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've always wanted to do a podcast, and I'm starting my own, so this is great practice.
Nice, yeah. So when Ty launches the podcast, make sure you guys go check it out.
Yes, check it out when I launch it soon.
So I guess I met you through online because I was admiring your video editing work and I was like, this guy has cool content. And then you just sort of blew up. Like I followed you in the beginning of January, and then where are you at now?
I'm at 119,000 right now.
Okay, so that's only been like less than a month and you grew that much.
Yes, I did. Yeah, unprecedented growth. I've never seen, especially for Instagram growth, I've never seen that scale. Actually, I have. The person that I utilize for my videos, his name is Dan Coe. He has grown far more exponentially than I have. When I first started following him, he was only at like 200,000.
Yeah, he's like over 1 million now, right?
Yeah, now he's like, I think he's on to 1.2 million in the last like 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's Instagram growth is like, it's changing. The concept of Instagram growth is changing. Yeah.
How do you think it's changing?
Well, like with the like widespread usage of TikTok and For You page style social media, or algorithmic based social media, that concept is really taking over, and Instagram is no exception to that. So they've completely like 180'd in regards to their traditional methods of social media, which you can speak on too, and I'm sure we'll get into that because I'm very curious how you navigated old school Instagram.
Yeah.
What was your initial question?
My initial question was, like, how do you think, I guess, Instagram has changed now? And why do you think it's harder for people to grow like 0 to 100K within a month?
I don't think it's harder. I think it's easier. I genuinely think it's easier. Because if you make content that people enjoy watching and that provides value, you will grow.
Right. Because
that is what the social media platforms, all of them, are pushing. Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, they're all pushing value-based content that keeps you on the platform. So if you can do that, you'll grow. And that's why I grew.
Right.
Because all of my stuff there's a lot of inherent value in it. It educates you and it entertains you. So it touches on a lot of pillars at once.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, before we dive deeper into how you grew and how content marketing is sort of, I guess, like the new marketing that a lot of brands, personal brands are doing, I want to backtrack to how you even get into like video editing in the first place, and I guess your love for photography, videography, and all of that.
Oh, well, that's a great question. It all started back in high school. I took a computer art class.
What's even computer art?
Well, that's back in the day, in like maybe it was probably like 2014.
Yeah.
What is computer art? I was very curious as well.
Yeah.
The concept of creating things online wasn't ingrained in society just yet. There was no such thing as content creators. There was no such thing as all of that stuff. So I took it. It was an elective course. I took it, and I just fell in love with the idea of creating things. Or I guess I was always in love with the idea of creating things that didn't always exist in the world. So like being able to create something from nothing always like caught my attention.
Right.
And then going into this computer art class, I was able to create things from nothing with ease. I didn't need to buy any paint. I didn't need to do anything crazy. No investments. All I needed was a computer. And it allowed me to create art or things from absolutely nothing. And I loved that concept. I absolutely loved that concept.
Right. Was it sort of like animation and graphic design then?
It was a Photoshop heavy class. So just photo manipulation, which I loved. I loved the concept of like taking a photograph and changing it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like people's perception of like, or back in the day at least, people's perceptions of photographs were hard facts, tried and true. If it's a photo, it is what it is. But I fell in love with the idea of like countering that notion, being like, no, actually, you can manipulate photos and you can change reality and you can bend it to your liking and you can manipulate pixels and essentially you're fooling people, like you're tricking people or you're creating an alternate reality. And this goes back to me loving the idea of creating something that didn't exist. So like I remember we had to like manipulate the Golden Gate Bridge or something, and I made it purple or something like that.
Nice.
But back at like when I was a kid, like being able to change the color of the Golden Gate Bridge in photograph form was such an interesting concept for me.
Right.
And I fell in love with the idea of manipulating reality, which evolved into my passion for invoking emotion in people. So that's what my passion is. Like I love telling stories and then evoking emotion in people. And yeah, I do that through digital art. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. I remember when I was in high school, I took a photography class, and it was not computer art, so it was straight up like using film camera and whatnot, taking photos and videos. And I fell in love with it when I was 14 because I saw the world through a different lens that was different than what we see with our eyes. So I totally understand like how that kind of evoked your creativity and to be able to, I guess, like live in a different reality, like you said.
Well, yes, to an extent. I don't want anyone thinking I live in an alternate reality. I'm certainly grounded in the real world. And that is, I think, an asset of mine as an artist. I find like a lot of artists aren't the most grounded in reality. So therefore their art is like, it isn't as well received. I don't know exactly where I'm going with that, but I feel like I have a really good grasp on like where society is, what current trends are, like what's going on in the real world, so that when I create art, it comes from an anchored position. Yeah. So it allows me. It speaks to people. Yeah, it speaks to people, and it allows me to get super creative without like losing my audience. Like there's still a sense of truism and realism to the things that I create, which I think is why it's so impactful for people. Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess your interest and passion for videography and creating art started with your computer art class. Did you turn that into, I guess, a profession? Did you work for companies, being a videographer, all that?
No, for quite a while I pursued it as a hobby. It was always a big hobby of mine. I would do it in my free time. I would say I fell in love with graphic design first, initially. So I fell in love with graphic design initially, and I would make my friends like little posters and edits here and there, which I freaking loved. And that evolved into making video, like vlogs for my friends and our adventures. And
Right.
they're still on YouTube right now. Like anyone could go and find it. It's under The Pioneers.
Yeah.
That was our friend group name. We called ourselves The Pioneers back in high school. So we would just go on crazy adventures, and I would like bring my camera and we would
film
document style
Yeah.
film it. And then I would take it and make some crazy edits. So for quite a while, as I was saying, I treated it as a hobby. And I guess there's so many avenues I could take with this. I'll jump into my LA story.
Yeah.
So when I graduated, I flew back to New York, which is where I'm from. I flew back to New York to meet with my best friend, Holden Miller, who's a musician. Mm-hmm. And I get to New York, hang out for a bit, see my friends. And the plan is to drive from New York to LA, across the country, Route 66, which is like the classic
Yeah.
route that you would take. So we did that, and this is all under the pursuit of my passion. I was living in Vancouver for quite a while, and I was feeling not the happiest about it. Like I felt like I was missing out on opportunities, and I felt like I wasn't achieving what I wanted to achieve artistically or like spiritually, I guess you could say. So I was longing for more.
Yeah.
So I decided to pick up my stuff and leave to New York and then subsequently LA, which we did. Fantastic road trip. I'd highly recommend you do it. Anyone should absolutely do the New York to LA road trip. Such a fantastic experience. You travel through like so many different states, but like within those states, they're like completely separate worlds. Like
Right.
like
How long did it take?
it was about 11 days, give or take.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like Texas is like vastly different than Pennsylvania. Like in terms of, although they're all in the United States, it's just a completely different vibe,
Yeah.
which I really appreciate. And I feel like I grew up really fast.
Through those 11 days.
Through those 11 days, yeah.
Yeah.
And then within that time frame, I was also working for a music label called Core Music and creating graphics and videos for them, all while traveling. So I had my
Nice.
laptop, we were traveling, like I just got hired by them. So there's a lot happening. And it was great. It was feeding into my artisticness, which
Yeah.
is fantastic. And it was a lot, but you know, through those experiences, I definitely grew a lot. And then we arrived in LA, and we actually had completely separate living arrangements.
Okay.
So like me and Holden were supposed to live together,
Right.
but it fell through. He thought he had an extra spot in his house for me.
Right.
Ended up someone took that spot. One of the other artists that he was moving out there to meet up with. So I was left stranded like 2 weeks maybe prior to us leaving LA. And I was like, fuck, what the hell do I do?
Yeah.
So I was scrambling to figure out like living arrangements.
Yeah.
So this was right before we actually left. So I was scrambling to figure out living arrangements, and I found this hype house, I guess you could say. Like,
wow.
Like bunch of, it was a creative collective, like a
Right.
collective of artists that were all living collectively
Together. Yeah.
together in LA, in Santa Monica. I think there was probably like 18 of us in this like
Oh my
mansion
God.
style house.
Yeah.
It was cool. Really good experience. Never want to do it again, but really valuable experience living with all of the striving artists and being a part of like an artistic community in LA. And I mentioned to you the other day, I felt like the reason that I didn't like my experience in LA, I guess, I value it super heavy, but I didn't
Right.
like my experience there, and I don't look back fondly on it, is because I had this notion that I was a super, super tiny fish in a really, really, really big pond in
Yeah.
LA. Like I felt like everyone was just doing exactly
Like what you were doing.
what I was doing.
Yeah.
I didn't feel unique at all. I didn't feel like I had my footing in any like respect. And it was quite difficult to live in that environment where it's like a cutthroat environment, especially for artists, which I'm sure like that common notion does kind of hold true. LA is like the center for
Creatives.
creativity, or creatives. And I felt that, and it made me really appreciate Vancouver for what it is. And this goes back to my fish analogy. I feel like a really large fish in a very small pond in Vancouver. And I love that dynamic a lot more. Like that dynamic to me is exponentially better than the opposite one that I felt in LA. So out of my entire trip to LA, what I got out of that was I freaking love Vancouver, and I love the feeling that it gives me. And I love the position that it puts me in as an artist a lot more than LA.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that story of moving to LA and kind of chasing the, I guess, artist dream that a lot of people that live in Vancouver or even all over the world feels like LA is like the spot. And like, if I'm there, I've made it. But a lot of people, I think they don't realize is that after they arrive in LA, that there's so many other people doing the same thing, like exactly what you said.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was a good experience, but...
Do you think you would be like the same... Do you think you would be where you are now if you didn't go to LA?
Absolutely not. No. I would still be longing to get out of Vancouver.
Right.
You know... Well, I don't know. What's the saying? You might know it. It's like... You can never value what you have until it's gone. Like something like that. Like you don't understand what you have until you don't have it. And that's what I needed to fall back in love with Vancouver. Yeah. Like I just felt like I was like, I just didn't like it. I was not having the time that I thought I wanted to have living in Vancouver. So I needed to exit. Yeah. And then I needed that exit to remind me of how beautiful I had it in Vancouver, which it did. It served that purpose. That wasn't my intention. Right. But it served that purpose. And I would highly recommend anyone who feels that way about the place that they live in, leave. Yeah. For an undefined amount of time, like an undeterminate amount of time. Yeah. Get out of there with the intention of not coming back. Like you need to have that in the back of your head. That's what I had in LA. I figured I would just set up shop there for good if I made it. Yeah. So you need to leave the place that you're not vibing with the intention of not coming back. Yeah. And see what happens. Yeah. And if you fall in love with the new place, then so be it. Then you fall in love with the new place and then you're happier. Or you don't fall in love with a new place and it makes you, it brings to the forefront of your attention all of the goodness of the place that you were currently in, whether it's your home or not, or whatever the case may be. You need to like remove yourself from the situation so that you can objectively analyze your situation. You can't be in the midst of it while also analyzing and then taking action on that. It's like it's a lot to ask for. So I'd recommend, removing yourself, whatever that may be. That just goes for life too. Like remove yourself from the situation so that you can look at it for what it is and then come back with a clear head on it. Yeah.
There's another quote. It's called "Fall out of love so you can fall in love with it again." Okay. I saw it on a YouTube video and I think it's I had the same experience. Like I went to Costa Rica last year traveling solo, and then I thought that I would want to live the digital nomad lifestyle and just travel, I guess, all over the world and work on my laptop. But after going to Costa Rica for a month, I came back to Vancouver and I realized like how much I missed it, and I didn't know that. Right. If I didn't leave for a month and a half, I wouldn't know that I actually appreciate Vancouver so much and the people here.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you didn't have that experience, you'd probably still like be longing to leave, or like you'd probably still have a lot of the negativity that you were having prior. Yeah. It's a necessary part of growing up is what we just talked about. Yeah. I'm not going to just recap it. Yeah. Yes, it's a necessary part of growing up.
Do you think being in that cutthroat environment in LA hindered your creativity in any way?
Well, that's a different, like, we can go down that rabbit hole of creativity, because that's a very interesting rabbit hole to go down.
Like big picture, like when you were there, do you feel like it put you in this? No. You sort of get boxed in, or no?
I wasn't more creative. Like my current state right now, where I am at right now, is the most creative I've ever been. Right. Got it. And I attribute that to I have a stable income, stable friendships, stable relationships. I'm not struggling in any way, which I'm super grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
So it allows me to be creative without any sort of... It allows me to be creative from the most purest form of myself. I'm not creative in a desperate sense. I'm not clawing my way out of debt. I'm not trying to create for the sake of getting famous or impressing my friends and family. That's not what I'm doing.
Right.
I'm creating for the sake of being creative. And that's when I think artists have the most success, is when they have their lives in order, and then they're at liberty to create from the heart. Because I think if you don't have your stuff in order as an artist, it's hard to be genuine in your creativity.
Yeah.
And that might, I don't know, the way I said that might be a little bit controversial, but I think you can kind of understand what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. I think it's really important to be, in a way, like stress-free and be in flow state in order to maximize your creativity. I feel like if there are stressors in your life, you feel weighted down by it, and you can't really fully expand your potential in creativity and create the work and art that you want.
Absolutely. And also, like, let's say hypothetically, you're a painter and painting is your only source of income. You're painting from the place of, I need to make my rent, or I need to paint so that I can buy groceries, or I need to paint so that I can, you know what I mean? Like,
I know what you mean.
You're painting from a different point.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're painting almost out of desperation. And I'm not, by any means, I'm not shitting on the idea of being an artist when you're struggling. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm just saying, from my experience, I've found that I have been most creative and the most genuine and most happy about creating when I do it for the sake of creating, not because I have to be creating.
I see.
So
I do think that will be. I do think that some people would have like the flip side of the story, and they're like, well, like they put themselves in that situation where they're like kind of forced to make that work, and then they eventually make that work. So I think everyone has their different story. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know, like that is totally a viable route.
Yeah.
Absolutely a viable route. But I think any struggling artist that has become successful would rather create from that other side.
Yeah.
Like the quality of their work would probably be better, and they would probably be happier about it once they've bridged that gap. Like
Right.
once they become financially and mentally sound, I think they would value and appreciate the work that they create on that side of it
Right.
a little bit more. I
Yeah.
think, because it's more authentic. You know what I mean? Like if everything is perfect in your life and you sit down to paint a painting, you can paint whatever you want, and there's no, you're not painting from a pinpoint of like burden or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. So we kind of talked a little bit about the year that you were living in LA and how that, in a way, shaped you the person you are today because of the life experiences that you went through. Can you speak a little bit more on how you wanted to become a content creator? Is this like something you always wanted to do, or you kind of stumbled upon it? And how did you just figure out how to be one?
Awesome question. Well, I mean, it depends how you define content creator. I've been creating digital things since high school.
Right.
Whether or not I label that as content, I don't know. The concept of content creator is a fairly new concept, especially mainstream wise. Like, yes, there were content creators
Always.
a few years ago, always. But how you define content creator today is vastly different than what it stood for when I started to get into digital art.
Right.
So, no, I didn't always want to be a content creator or like a YouTuber. Like that wasn't necessarily like what I wanted to do. I think I just, when I got into it, I had no plans. No plans at all, especially in the infancy of my hobby phase, where I was treating my graphic design and digital art as a hobby. But to that point, I always knew that I would do something with it. Like, I fell in love, as I was mentioning before, with the concept of creating things from nothing. And I knew that I would do that for the rest of my life. So that class, that computer art class, instilled or brought to the forefront of my attention my true passion, which is creating things.
Yeah.
And the medium to which that happens is digitally. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't always want to be a content creator, but I always wanted to create content.
Right.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you not stumble upon, how did you create your Instagram page now? How did you know what type of content you wanted to make or showcase? And what did you want to speak to your audience about?
Yeah. Well, let me just backtrack on that for a bit. So I've always been hyper conscious of my Instagram. Like, I'm not hyper conscious in a bad way, but like, I've always treated it like an art gallery.
Yeah.
And the art sometimes was like photographs of myself or my friends or like my daily activities. But I feel like I always went above and beyond what my peers were doing in regards to how much time they were spending creating for Instagram or creating things in general. So I was used to the concept of being hyper focused on curating my Instagram. So that, and this was before I was even a content creator by any means. I was just like utilizing Instagram as Instagram used to be utilized for, with like photographs and mainly just photographs. But I loved Instagram. I just loved the concept of Instagram. I'm a very visual person. Like I love visuals. Like, so I always was attracted to visuals. And when Instagram first brought video to the platform back in like 2015, 2016 maybe.
Yeah.
I was like first on that. I was like, oh, I got to make some videos for Instagram now. And I have like, if you scroll all the way back on my Instagram to like 2015, there's a video of me like doing a backflip like through sunglasses.
Oh, cool.
I don't know. It was like, I was like a really, it looks so mediocre now, but back when video was brand new to Instagram, it was like a cool thing that I was just playing with. And I always liked being on like the cutting edge forefront of technology, especially social media. So that transition that I took back in October of 2022 to kind of take my content seriously was fairly seamless for me, because I was already used to the idea of spending a lot of time per each one of my posts.
Right. My next question, like going off of that, is how did you plan what type of content you were going to make? Like, you were obviously not posting the videos you are posting now, and for the people that are listening, you kind of make like motivational, stoic type video. Am I right?
Yeah, to an extent. That's how I started off. So back in October, like there was a flip that switched in my head where I was like, okay, I see all of these content creators doing really successful online. Like, I see it, and I know that I have the skills to reproduce exactly what they've made that have brought them to success, and then better, just because I've been doing it for so long. So I was confident in my abilities to emulate and then surpass. And that was how I started personally. Now, it wouldn't be the same for anyone, because they likely don't have 10 years of graphic design or video experience behind them. But if you're trying to get into content creation now, and I tell this to all of my friends who ask me, is you have to copy what works in your own way. But for the most part, like skeleton wise, especially on these For You page style, algorithmic based social media platforms, which is all of them.
Yeah.
You have to copy what works into your own style until you amass a following
Right.
that knows and respects your work and that can propel your work into a broader audience. But you need a core following. And the only way to attract a core following in an algorithmic-based social media platform is to copy, especially if you're starting at zero.
Right.
You cannot, it is so rare to be able to come onto the scene of a social media platform, start from zero, and create things that hit.
Right.
Because you're just not going to know how to do it. The act of copying allows you to practice.
Yeah.
And it allows you to analyze what works, what doesn't work. And I use the word algorithm, but algorithm just means human beings. So algorithm is, there's no like mighty algorithm that like this impenetrable wall that is the algorithm. None of that. No, it's just what humans like.
Right.
It's like, that's all the algorithm is. It's what do human beings like and what are they attracted to? Yeah. And the only way to figure that out, unless you've been studying human behavior for your whole life, is to create content and then analyze that content. And the easiest way to do that is to copy initially, because you could start from zero, and you could start completely fresh, like making your own content that is like out of your own brain, like completely new to the scene. But it's going to be a lot harder and the road is going to be a lot bumpier for you in those initial few months, because that's the hardest part, is growing your following from 0 to 1,000. Getting 1,000 people to actually engage and like your content is the hardest part. And if you're doing that, if you're creating content that is just completely unique to the platform and hasn't been tested and you have no feedback on like what maintains the most attention, all that stuff, it's going to be really hard for you. And you're going to have to create a lot of pieces of content to be able to understand what works and what doesn't work. And you could make 100 pieces of content that are completely brand new and none of them would work. Right. But if you scroll through the feed and you see things that are already successful, conceptually, you can take that idea, repurpose it with your own footage and your own spin and your own message and your own voice, and you can almost guarantee, or you can be reassured that this conceptually works. Yeah. So when you put that piece of content out, you don't have to worry about the concept. That's not something that you have to worry about. Right. It allows you to focus on your execution. Like, is my footage good? Is my message clear? All that stuff that will actually improve you. You don't have to worry about the skeletal concept of the content, because it's already worked for someone else. Yeah. Which means it will 100%, which means it objectively works on human beings. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Do you think the original creator would say otherwise? Like, do you think they are, I guess, like offended in any way that people are kind of just taking, as an example, like I heard a lot of TikTok hacks. It's like film the video frame by frame. Like literally if someone is talking for the first like 2 seconds, you talk. The next one, them walking, you do the same thing. And I've seen it work like through so many other brands. And I'm always curious if like the original person that created it would be like, oh, now everyone is like following me and I originally created it. Or do you think...
Absolutely not. No? Just to butt in there. No. Yeah. Like, I mean, I can't speak for every creator ever, but I know that I've gotten to the point where I actually hope that people copy me because it shows that my art piece or my content piece is worthy and resonates and is worthy of people deeming it to work. Right. So if I have a fresh idea and I put it out into the world and X amount of people copy it, it instills confidence in my ability to understand that piece is valid and valuable.
Yeah.
Like it you know, like all art is stolen art for the most part.
Yeah.
It is like all art has been somewhat influenced by your environment or other artists or other creatives or just the world, you know, like majority of things. And I'm hesitant to say everything, but I would say everything is created from a point of inspiration.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, where you're posing this idea that someone would get upset if someone just took their art piece almost word for word and copied it. But no, that's what you sign up for when you become a content creator in an algorithmic based platform. You sign up for that concept of piggybacking off art. It's social media is like really creating a landscape for a new wave of art. And piggyback art, like leapfrog art.
Right.
Like I create something, someone else creates something like with another layer on top. Then someone else creates something with another layer on top.
Yeah.
And it keeps snowballing forever. There's no endpoint. And that's what social media is. It's just leapfrog of art. And so where we are today is just variations and iterations of social media back in the day. Like, it's just, they're building blocks.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting new way to do art, because now the art is like a collective of humanity. This is so fucking deep, but like it's human art now. It's like, it's not Pablo Picasso's art, where it's kind of in his own little box and that's Pablo Picasso's art. No. In the art world of social media, it's everyone's art, because one art piece created by a creator is just, as I mentioned, leapfrogged off of hundreds, if not thousands, of other pieces of content.
Right.
And it's just ever building upwards. It's building towards, this is kind of, I guess, the dark side of social media, but it's building towards audience retention. Yeah. What triggers human brains to be locked in the most? And that is where content is just, it's rising and rising and rising, and people are noticing it more and more and more. I'm sure
consuming it more too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm sure anyone listening to this podcast can absolutely relate to the concept of being sucked into your phone now. And it's, content creators are to blame partially, if not fully, because the algorithm rewards
those behaviors
that retain attention. The art piece that can, or the content piece that can retain the audience attention for the longest wins.
Yeah.
And then when that longest retention piece is out there in the world, someone else copies that and makes it more irresistible. Yeah. And then when that's out in the world, someone else copies that and makes it more irresistible, until, I don't know what the end point is. I'm not sure if there is an endpoint, until like humans are just like fully engulfed and sucked into social media like 24/7. But yeah, social media, it's a cool new age concept for creating art. And that's exactly, I love that idea. I'm a digital artist. That's what I signed up for. Yeah. Like, fuck yeah. It's exciting for me, because it's a brand new concept. No one can speak on this yet. Yeah. Traditional artists have no idea how this game works. And, because it's a completely different medium. It's a leapfrog medium. You're not creating art in an isolated box anymore. The second that you publish something and put it out into the world, it's fair game. People steal, they alter, they change. Sometimes they just take your entire content piece and just post it on their Instagram. Yeah. Like, they just take your whole thing, don't change it at all, and just post it. So it's a cutthroat game, but if you're prepared for it, I'd highly recommend it. It's freaking awesome. And the upsides to becoming a content creator are endless. There's no ceiling to it. I do reach millions of people a month, millions,
Yeah.
millions and millions of people. And if I can find, or if anyone, a content creator, can find a way to monetize even just a small percentage of that, you can make, there's no limit to what you can make. It's not like there's no ceiling at all, because social media allows for mass outreach of ideas and marketing and all that stuff. So it's a fun game to play.
Yeah. That's really interesting, and I think it's like really forward thinking, and I think a lot of people get stuck in the idea of how social media used to be or what art or creating used to be, and they sort of maybe refuse to see the new world now or accept that that's like what the game is. And even like when like our brand started on Instagram back in like 2016, like the game is totally different. Like the engagement was like through the roof, and you could literally post whatever you want, and not whatever you want, but like strategically posting like organic UGC and whatnot, like engagement is through the roof. But now like you really need to be really strategic on what you're posting and making sure that that is catching people's attention, because there's unlimited option now, like on the internet. Yeah.
Absolutely. You need to, as a content creator, and this is advice to your brand as well, is you need to give a really solid reason for someone to pay attention to you. Attention is the most valuable currency in 2023. Like, you know, Alex Ramosi says that attention is the new oil.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there was like the oil rush of whatever year the oil rush happened, where that was the most lucrative thing on the planet, was who can capture and sell the most oil at a time.
Yeah.
Now, the most valuable asset in the world is human attention. Because human attention can go anywhere.
Yeah.
And if you're able to hone in on that attention and extract dollars out of it, then you have a massive leg up, and you are valuable. If you can capture attention and or extract money out of that attention, investors and big money will flow to you, because what you could do is so valuable. And you know, that goes back to content creating. It's, if you can capture an audience's attention, your value is extremely high.
Yeah.
Because especially in the realm of large companies and established companies and brands are losing the attention battle to content creators. Because historically speaking, large brands didn't have to play this attention game that content creators have to play now. And slowly, like, big brands are hopping on that trend. But it's a little bit different when Nike makes like a edible eye candy content piece. It's just different when it's coming from a large corporation as opposed to coming from like a small neighborhood content creator. Like, you're less likely to get sucked down the rabbit hole of a corporation's attention grabbing content as opposed to like someone that you can actually relate to. Just because I think in the back of your head, you're just wary of like big business, and like,
Right.
I feel like people our age are less trusting of big corporations for whatever reason that may be. And this goes back to like, become a freaking content creator, because the trust is there. It's just inherently there. The way that our demographic and the way that the world is moving is towards, we're looking for trust. We're looking for who can we trust in this world with all of this chaos and nonsense going on with politics and media and global goings-ons. Who can we trust? Can't trust the media, can't trust government, can't, whatever your case may be. But you might be able to trust the content creator down the road, or the content creator in the town over, or the content creator in the country over, because they've established that they are not biased by any means.
Yeah.
And if they, you need to do that. Actually, you need to establish that you're not biased. You need to establish that you are trustworthy. And that is a really pivotal, a really important part about becoming a content creator, is establishing trust and authority and a clean narrative. Like you can't be influenced by big business. You can't be strong-armed by government as a content creator. No one's going to listen to you. You have to be completely transparent. And that's what people are looking for.
Yeah.
And it's more than possible to do that as a small content creator.
I want to speak on a little bit about how do you think content marketing or content creation will play into any business now as a brand? Because back when I started, we never really did Facebook ads, but a lot of our competitors and other brands that I know, that's all they did. Facebook ads, paid media to get in front of people's eyeballs, right? But we always went the harder route, I think, is we went through organic social media growth and also influencer marketing. But now more and more brands are investing into content marketing. The ones that are, I think, smart anyway, because Facebook ads cost is going up and Google paid ads is going up. Influencer cost is going up. And then there's like millions of UGC content creator popping up. So what do you think, I guess in this new day and age, how would content marketing come into play for brands to really stand out?
You need to be trustworthy, transparent, personable, and you need to have a face.
Yeah.
Like, I think those are really important. Because as I was mentioning a little bit before, people are gravitating towards things and brands that they can trust. And the easiest way to gain trust is to put a face to the name.
Yeah.
Or a face to the brand. Wear the brand, right? Like, own it. Own your brand, right? If you're don't hide behind the logo.
Yeah.
That's my advice to brands in 2023. Do not hide behind the logo. Put a freaking face to, not even a spokesperson. You gotta like own it. Like,
yeah.
I don't know how that would play out in the corporate world, but you need to have faces and or a face behind the brand to push it.
Yeah.
And in regards to like more advice on that, I feel as though, and I don't have the science to back this up, unfortunately, but the whole social media game is like just a guessing game.
Yeah.
It's an educated guessing game. The whole concept of like subliminal sales, like selling, like backdoor sales, like I find that is what is doing really well. And if brands can, and I'll speak on what that means, if brands can do that and execute that well, I think their sales will absolutely, or I was going to say skyrocket, but at the very least be more consistent. And what I mean by backdoor sales is you need to provide value as a brand. Trusted value.
Yeah.
You can't just be spewing whatever and think it's value. You have to do your research as a brand, pick a topic that you want to talk about a lot. If you're an athleisure brand, speak on something in your realm of authority to speak on that provides value to your audience. And then after you provided value without asking for anything in return,
Yeah.
because that's where you establish trust, right?
Yeah.
Then you can glide into the notion of selling things. And I understand like certain brands are in different positions financially,
Right.
but you need to provide value first in 2023. And that is the reason that a lot of brands are suffering, because you have nothing to provide except merchandise.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but me, I don't want to just buy things for the sake of buying things. I want to feel
A part of something.
a part of something larger. I want to feel connected, or I want to feel like I'm supporting a cause that I can get behind.
Yeah.
So I'm more than happy to purchase clothing or merchandise from individual content creators that I resonate with for the sake of helping out their brand, repping their merch, getting them more exposure, all of that stuff. But that's because I've established a connection with that content creator or brand.
Right.
And I have a trust with them. And like subconsciously, like they have my back, I have theirs. Like I'll wear their stuff if they keep giving me free value. It's kind of like you're exchanging. It's more than just a monetary exchange now. There's a value exchange going on because it goes back to the whole like attention is insanely valuable these days. Like it's a new economy that we're in. We're living in a new age economy, and that is why a lot of brands are suffering, is they don't have the ability to grasp that concept. It's a hard concept to grasp, and I've only just recently grasped it, like within the last couple of months.
Yeah.
And that's why I've taken off, I think, is because I'm just giving value. Give value, give value, give value, give my thoughts, give my opinions for the sake of bettering someone, the genuine sake of bettering someone. And that's the approach that I take on all of my pieces of content, is I'm creating from a stance of like, I just want you to get better. Like, you know, I've been through the ringer and I've gone through my ups and downs, and I'm just here to speak on it and give you value on my experiences. And people absolutely resonate with that. 119,000 to be exact resonate with that in the last month.
Yeah.
Because I have nothing, I'm creating from a standpoint of I have nothing to sell you. People love that idea. I'm sure you do too. And I'm sure all of the listeners listening love that idea of like, let me listen to someone who has no skin in the game.
Yeah.
Like what is like, because everyone seems to have a bias these days. Everyone seems to have an ulterior motive. Everyone seems to have skin in the game. If you come across a content creator that is just creating for the sake of creating, it's a refreshing twist on that concept. And people are absolutely gravitating towards that. And it would be really smart for brands to follow suit.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people feel like they're really stuck in the ways of being an artist, that they have to create original content. And oftentimes I see it not really working as well. And so I guess, what do you think about that? And do you think there should be a new way of thinking regarding that topic?
Yes. Well, this is a predicament that like a lot of people are in. And I think I'm pretty confident to speak on it because I was a traditional artist. I thought of myself as an artist, and I had a lot of the notions that artists have about themselves. And I'm not going to get into that. But there's a certain feeling that you have that when you're an artist, and you need to evolve past that in order to thrive in the digital creator economy. You have to evolve past it. Traditional thinking when it comes to traditional artistic thinking when it comes to playing the online game, completely different. There's a differentiation between like real world art and digital art. And I feel like a lot of artists, like they grasp the real world aspect of it fantastically. Like, awesome. You know, you got your art in the real world down pat, and you know, you feel a certain way about that, and that's great. Good for you. But bringing that real world art into the digital world requires a completely different skill set and a completely different mentality towards that. And I know, like, personally, I have a lot of artistic friends or artist friends who really struggle with bridging that gap, bringing their real world art into the digital world. And as we were talking before, like, I've kind of worked out this idea that the things that people like in real world art are vastly different than the things that people like in the digital art world. And so like, let's say you're a painter. People in the real world really like the end product. Like they, you go to an art gallery to see a painting, like a finished painting. For the most part, you don't like get into the weeds about like how that painting came to be. For the most part, like, you go to an art gallery to admire the finished product, and the artist may be standing there showing off his final piece or her final piece. Like, this is my art. That's it. And you let it speak to you and you enjoy it for what it is. That's real world stuff. And that's great. That's fine. There's totally a place for that. In the digital space, people don't give a fuck about your art, your final product. People don't care about, especially paintings, like finalized paintings, for the most part. I'm speaking generally here. They care more about the process that you took to get to that painting. So there's two different like avenues of thinking when it comes to marketing your art. If you want to market art in the real world, focus on the finished product, market the finished product. But if you want to bring that into the digital world, people don't care about the finished product. So you have to figure out what people do care about. And right now what people care about is the process. And I'm sure there's other things that people would care about in the digital world. It's actually, there's more things that people care about regarding your art in the digital world. There are more games that you can play. There are more avenues to share your artisticness that doesn't involve pushing your final product. Your final product can be involved in your content piece in the digital world, but it should be enforced with value and the process. Because I guess it goes back to what we were saying before. People are looking for value. If I just post a photograph of a finalized painting on the internet or on social media, there's no inherent value to that. Or it's hard to extract value out of that. It's hard.
Right.
And people are looking for easy value, consumable, digestible value. Social media is not an art gallery. You're not swiping through art at a very leisurely pace and letting still imagery speak to you. You need to find a way to take your finalized art piece, bring it into the digital world, and add layers of value onto that. And in the process of providing value, you can show off the fact that you're a fantastic artist and that your piece is fantastic and that you're super proud of it. But that cannot be the focal point of your content piece, because people don't care about that in 2023. It's just not. I'm sure you can relate to this. Like, it's just, you're not opening TikTok to look at some random artist's drawing or painting or sketch or sculpture. Like, even if it is a fantastic art piece, in the digital world, you don't care about it unless you can see the process or you can extract some sort of value out of it. Like let's say you're a sculptor and you sculpt using a certain kind of clay, and you want to show off your finalized sculpture. I would recommend talking about the clay. If it's an interesting piece that people don't know about, do a little autopsy of the clay. Like, oh, this clay is actually mined from the Himalayan mountains 12,000 years ago, and the ancient Mexicans used to build their, you know what I mean? Like, create a story and create a reason for me to get invested in your art. Don't just show me art, because people don't care about just being fed art. There needs to be a story and emotional involvement, value, all of that. And that's where artists really struggle, because they're not used to that. That isn't a conscious thought when creating for the real world. And I was a culprit of that.
Right.
I was not someone to think that way by any means. But it's okay. The digital age is pushing evolution of artists. Like, that's fine.
Yeah, I think it's very smartly put, because I think that a lot of people understand how it works in the real world, and then can't quite understand that it does work differently in the digital world and the day and age that we live in now. And as a brand, and also just personal brand or creator or anyone, I think what is the most important right now is the story and your why. And the story is how. And the why is like why you're doing it. And so being able to communicate that to your audience is really important, and that's what's going to draw them in. And so I also want to talk a little bit about your why. Why are you creating the type of content that you're creating? Were you always into the motivational mindset type of living, the way that you live? Is that something you always practiced?
Fantastic questions. Is that something that I always practiced and lived? No. Mm-hmm. So like just to touch on like what I speak on in my videos right now. I speak on motivation and self-discipline and knowledge acquisition and things that like help you become a more productive, holistic, better human being. And by no means was I always like this. But I think through that growth of me not always being like this into the person that I am now, that's what I intend to capture. Like that growth process. And like, how can I share that growth process, and how can I give advice to people? Because I just went through it, like I feel really good right now about myself. And like, I'm gratefully financially stable. I'm gratefully mentally super stable, relationships stable, everything good. Knock on wood. And I know a lot of people are not where I'm at.
Yeah.
They're just not. Because I'm like people, I guess, like talking to me about this stuff because I'm very easygoing when it comes to like personable stuff. And so I get a lot of people speaking to me on their personal experiences, and they don't match up with how I live my life in regards to like how I'm feeling. So I guess I just hope to help a lot of people like get from a bad place to a better place, because I've been in both. Like I know what both sides look like really well, because I've always been super analytical of my situations and my surroundings and my environment and all that. So I know what it's like to be not happy, and I know what it's like to be happy.
Right.
And I have documented my process from getting to not happy to happy. And documented meaning just taking note, like being super analytical with the things that worked and didn't work for me, and the habits and rituals and the actions that I've taken. I've just taken note of it, and I can easily spread that to people.
Right. What do you think? What is your why?
Yeah, my why.
And it's a big question, and I feel like a lot of people strive to do something that they're passionate about and have a passion that they can share with the world. And I think I truly live that by creating a community for my company. So I'm curious what your why is.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned briefly before, like my passion lies within invoking emotion in people. And I'm not sure exactly why that is, but I love getting people to feel something, to feel things. Because I guess maybe like just talking about it now, like I guess that's the first step into like being conscious, like fully conscious, and like understanding where you're at in the world. So if I can get you to feel something, my hope is to get you one step closer to feeling other things, and then learning from those feelings and becoming better because of it.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people are just like numb to everything. Like there's so much stimulation, there's so much things to be entertained by, there's so much negativity and drama and all this stuff. You can't help but become numb to it. So I think I see like my passion is like breaking that stigma and like getting people to like feel something again, so as to like start a little domino effect, so that they can just start to feel things again. So I guess that's my kind of why. I knew I liked invoking emotion in people, but I never really drew out that thought.
Right.
And I think that's probably why. Like, I like getting people to feel something, because I feel like people don't feel anything. That's just my notion of.
Right.
I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But I feel like vast majority of people live their life like an NPC, which is a non-playable character. Like, that's just the way that I look at life.
Yeah.
And maybe, for better or for worse. I just feel like people are kind of just going through the motions, zoning out majority of the time. And through my art, I hope to wake people up, and like, that's not even through my messaging necessarily. It's just through the act of feeling something.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm like preaching, like, wake up now. Like, no, it's like,
Yeah.
I just, whether it's a good emotion feeling video or a sad emotion feeling video, I just want people to feel something. Because as I said, I feel like a lot of people are just numb to things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really powerful.
Thank you.
And I think it takes a lot for people to usually realize what their why is or why they're doing something. And so, yeah, I think it's amazing that you figured out what your passion is, what your mission is, and showing that through all of the content and work that you're doing.
Thank you. Just to quickly speak on my how again. So how, like, I've kind of come to be the content creator that I have is because I've distanced myself from my peers, and I've innately always felt the need to like share things with my peers and my family, share knowledge, share tips, share tricks, share what I have inside of me with other people. So the act of me voluntarily retracting from my friendships and relationships created a artificial gap, like a hole that like I just needed to fill.
Right.
And I could have filled that by just, finding new friends or reaching out to those friends again and whatever. But with this artificial hole, I fill that gap through social media. So I have this like crazy desire to create content.
Right.
To speak to people, because I have a hole to fill. Like, I have created that hole. Like, I don't have a bunch of friends to go and run and tell all of my knowledge to anymore.
Yeah.
So I tell the whole world.
Yeah.
And I would not be able to create if I was surrounded by an abundance of friendships. If I was living with 25 people, wouldn't be able to create, because any great, bright idea that I would have, I would just tell everyone there and feel satisfied.
Right.
Which is fine. And I did that for a long time. I felt fulfilled and satisfied. But I was like, how do I scale this?
Yeah.
How do I scale my desire to want to share things with the world? And it started with, I needed a hole. I needed to create an artificial gap. Yeah. So I distanced myself from a lot of people. And I just moved into my own place, which has been amazing in regards to that, artificial hole kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where I'm just alone now, which I love. I freaking love it. But it increases that desire for me to want to share things with people, because I don't have anyone to share with in real life, which I'm fine with. And I'm fully satisfied sharing with thousands of people online right now. And like, I don't want to sound like I'm a freaking like I'm a nerdy digital, like, I don't need real people. Like, that's not at all what I'm doing. I'm doing this very strategically, actually. And I totally plan on, rekindling friendships and or like, altering my stance on that artificial gap that I was talking about. But that is what propelled me to want to create for people that I haven't even met, I guess that's like a really weird concept for people, especially like in the older demographics. Like, I feel like people are like, why the hell would you want to create for someone in India? Or why would you want to send a message to someone in Jamaica. Like it's
Yeah.
a weird concept, especially for, as I said, the older demographic.
Yeah,
Because,
for sure.
because they never really that isn't something that they had access to. If they wanted to share something with someone, the only people that you had access to was like
Immediate circle.
your immediate circle, and like if it was super important, you could like take out an ad in the newspaper or something, like whatever. But there's so much barrier to entry. Social media, zero barrier to entry. You just need your phone, and that's it. You just need your phone, and you can speak to the whole world. And it isn't an inherent trait. Like I don't think that human beings are born to want to speak to that many people. So you need to artificially create it, which is what I did. And I don't know where I learned that. Like it just happened. It just felt necessary. Like I was like, I want to reach more people. How do I do it? Let me just cut off my friendships for a bit, see what happens. And it worked. That's kind of how that happened.
Right.
And I would imagine most really successful YouTubers and creators probably went through something similar.
Yeah.
I would imagine. I don't know for sure, but I would imagine that there would have had to been some distancing from their real world in order to get in the mindset of speaking to the whole world. Because it's a different mindset. It's a totally different mindset.
If you were to attribute 3 things to your growth over the last month and a half, what would that be?
Well, yes, as we discussed last week, consistency is like the biggest thing. Absolutely. And that would be my number one piece of advice and that is my number one piece of advice for people that ask me, is consistency. The way that the algorithm works right now, you just have to like hammer at it. Like you just like slow and steady wins the race. Like if you want to just like quickly get into like a numerical like recommendation, it would be like 30 pieces of content in 30 days.
Yeah.
60 pieces of content in 60 days. One a day. Like whatever you are capable of producing is whatever the maximum that you're capable of producing in a comfortable realm is my recommendation.
Yeah.
So that I attribute to my success. I was creating for about 2.5 months before I saw any success at all.
Right.
Like I was seeing marginal success in regards to followers and likes, whatever. And then it just took off after 2 months of consistently hammering out videos. I probably made like 70 videos before, 60 or 70 videos. I don't know exactly how many, but I made a lot before anything happened.
Yeah.
The algorithm needs
To learn about you.
And it needs to understand what you're about. It needs to understand what you stand for. And you need to build that foundation of followers that support you and propel your content to the next level to the next chunk of, the algorithm works in stages. So like it will send your piece of content out to say, let's say you're starting at 0 followers. It'll send your content out to 10 people, and it will take note of the percentage of people that watched your video in its full length, and it'll basically do a diagnosis on like engagement.
Yeah.
Whether or not they liked it, how long they watched it for, whether or not they shared it. And it will give you like a score based on that 10 people. And if it did really well based on that 10 people, it'll shoot it out to maybe 50 people. And it'll take another score based on the same numbers. Or the same, what's the fucking word?
Engagement.
Yeah. And it'll keep doing that, basically. Yeah, so be freaking consistent. That's my number one piece. And then my subsequent pieces to that would be, like, get your skill set up in regards to content creation. Like, hone your skills in regards to making videos.
Yeah.
It's fairly important, especially when everyone's doing it. It's easy to stand out when you have high production value.
Right.
And the only way to get better production value is by creating. Like, you have to just release pieces of content. So, like, my 75th piece of content is infinitely better than my first and second pieces. But I would never be able to get to the quality of my 75th piece by just starting there. Like that's not even an option. That 75th content piece is an aggregation of the 74 that came prior. All of those lessons that I've learned and all of the analysis that I've done on those 74 pieces prior has led me to my 75th.
Right.
And it keeps moving. Like your 100th will be infinitely better than your 75th, and your 200th will be infinitely better than your 100th. Because, as I mentioned, you grow, just like anything, you know?
Yeah.
So increase your skill set. And the only way to increase your skill set is by creating stuff. And then my last piece was, what was it?
Unified messaging.
Yes. Having a unified message also. Oh, this is like a big topic, but I tell like everyone who asks me, and we were mentioning this a little bit before, you need to give a reason for someone to follow you. You cannot be, everyone's scatterbrained right now with all this content out there.
Yeah.
You cannot be a brand that stands for scatterbrainedness.
Yeah.
Right? Like you need to provide clarity. And having a unified message that encapsulates all of your content is that clarity. So what I stand for is, as we were mentioning, like getting better from point A to point B. How do you get from a worse place to a better place? How do you improve yourself? What does that look like? Yes. So having a unified message is so important for any content creator or brand. You need to stand for something, right? Why would I follow you? For what reason would I follow you? What value, what unified umbrella of value do you provide to me? And if I can't figure that out, I'm likely not going to follow you because I'm looking for clarity. The users are looking for clarity and conciseness and clean aggregation of knowledge.
Yeah.
That's just what people are looking for. So having a unified message that you stand for is super important. And I think we were working out what your unified message would be for your brand and your personal. What do you remember what, like vaguely what we stumbled upon for like your unifying message?
Yeah, I think for me it's important to share my journey authentically.
Yeah.
Same thing. And to really make people feel like they belong somewhere. Because for me, growing up, like I never felt like I belonged. I moved around a lot. And when I first started the company, I really wanted to make a safe space for people to come together.
Yeah.
So for me, it was, my passion is building a community and creating that belonging, that sense of belonging for people.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's an awesome unifying message. So if all of your pieces of content have that underlying subliminal message,
Yeah.
that brings a sense of like unity and clarity to your followers. And people will follow you for that, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to give them a clear-cut reason to follow you. Anyone that you follow, any content creators that you follow, I'm sure in your head they stand for something.
Yeah.
Like, they have something that you really value about them. And it's usually a fairly narrow thing. Typically, you don't follow a content creator because they give you everything that you could possibly need. That's really not what they stand for. But a unifying message is the new age niche. So like the word niche is such an outdated term. Like you know, niche down or like pick a niche when you create content, absolute garbage. Like in 2023, that's not what you should do. Like if you, let's say you're a finance guy and you want to create like a finance Instagram channel. Right. That would have been smart back in the day to like, you know, niche down to finance, only talk about finance, money, all that stuff. But now, if you want to be successful, you wouldn't niche down, you would actually niche up. So like, if you're a finance guy and you know finance really well, speak on all of the things that make you unique. And you could put a finance twist on things, but
right.
the value lies within your individual experiences and your individual knowledge pools. Like, that is why people follow creators. So I might follow you because of your awesome entrepreneurial skills, your fantastic knowledge of brand building, your knowledge of creating a clothing line, and whatever else you're interested in, like whatever other hobbies that you have. That's why I would follow you.
Right.
Not because you speak just on entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
That's the shift that's happening in 2023.
Yeah, I agree.
So you have to like open up. You become the product. You become the brand, right? Like, you don't let the brand run you. If you're super niche down, you're letting the brand run you. Like,
you're
like,
right.
oh, everything I have to make is about finance, or everything that I have to make is about entrepreneurship. No, like, my brand is super wide. It's wide open. Like, I talk about a lot of stuff,
Right.
because everything that is underneath that umbrella of like improving yourself, there's a lot of stuff underneath that umbrella.
Yeah.
I could talk about cooking. I could talk about like study habits. I could talk about routines. I could talk about sleep habits. I could talk about like all of this stuff that help you become better. And people love that. And I love that as a content creator, because it allows me to make whatever I want, like whatever I want. And people will still love it because it's unified.
Yeah. That's awesome. I guess to wrap it up, from me, it's what's your future plans? Now that you've grown so fast and you kind of have a strategy down on like the direction that you want to take, where to now?
That's a great question. I'm just going to keep growing and see what happens, see what opportunities come my way. That's kind of where I'm at right now. It's like, I know for me personally, like, I have confidence that established people and brands will reach out to me. And if they pose an offer that's, too good to decline, I'd imagine I'd probably take that and just climb the ladder that way. That's one route. Or I just go full-time content creator and make a living doing whatever I want, which actually is probably more of a ideal route for me. It's like,
Right.
I just want to be a full-time content creator. Like, that's what I think, that's a self-actualized like version of myself. It's like, that is like peak Ty Frago, and peak a lot of people also. Like, becoming a content creator and making whatever you want, sharing your knowledge, helping people, all that stuff, and getting paid for it. What is better than that?
Yeah.
Like, there's not, in my opinion, I don't see a better job than a full-time content creator. And all of the negative stigma and connotations that are associated to content creator are no more. Because there's real money to be made now.
Yeah.
It's not a facade. The digital world and the internet, the digital world and the real world are
Merging.
ever merging, quicker and quicker. And, people are living online now. So it would make sense to venture over there to make some money.
Yeah.
It's not as taboo as it was a few years ago.
Yeah, for
rightfully so. Before it was taboo, and that's fine, because the internet wasn't as established as it is now.
Yeah.
But I think we all see like the grasp that it has on humanity.
Yeah.
The internet. It's like so fucking real. Like, you can't escape it. Like, you're listening to this podcast right now on a digital device, and you're probably watching it too. Like, you can't escape it.
Yeah.
Might as well make some money with it. And go full-time content creator. That's my goal, actually. Definitely.
I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see where you'll get to.
Thank you. I'm excited too. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
It's a wild ride. It's fun. It's a learning. And it's like entrepreneurship. It's literally entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And which is why like I'm very interested in like entrepreneurship as a whole. Like, how, I'm going to ask you a question now.
Switch.
Yeah.
You're the host now.
How has entrepreneurship been treating you, do you think? Like, pros, cons? Have you learned a lot? I'm sure you have. Like, what, in a nutshell, I guess, like, what does entrepreneurship look like as opposed to a standard lifestyle route?
Yeah, I think I could go on forever on this question, but to sum it up, I think the biggest thing that I learned from entrepreneurship is the freedom. And to me, freedom means different than someone else's freedom. To me, freedom means that I am able to do what I love doing whenever I want, wherever I want. But for some people, freedom means financial freedom, or living wherever they want, or being able to work from home and not have to go into the office. So it means different for everyone. But for me, it's to be able to do something that I am so excited to wake up to do every day, wherever I am. And I think entrepreneurship has its ups and downs, because a lot of people say, quit the 9 to 5 so that you can work for yourself. But what people don't talk about is when you work for yourself, you actually work 10 times harder. Like sometimes when it's my low days, I'm like, I'd rather do a 9 to 5 so that I could just not bring work home, right?
Yeah.
When you own your own business, it's really hard to shut off. And I've learned a lot through that, burning out, going through all of that, I guess, hustle culture, which I've learned that it's not my end goal. Like, I don't want to hustle my whole life. For what, right? So for me, I think my mindset shifted a lot. To me, it's not about making X amount of dollars. It's about fulfilling like what my purpose is, which is to build a community and to share content and my knowledge like authentically.
Yeah.
And I think the other ups of entrepreneurship is that the community is really amazing if you put yourself out there. I wish that when I first started, I put myself out there more like I do now.
Yeah.
But it's never too late. And I think in any community, you can always find your group of people and learn from each other and be in the similar mindset so that you can all excel and be where you want to be at.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice. Huh. Would you recommend like entrepreneurship as a like, do you regret your decision, I guess?
No, I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else, to be honest.
And you've been an entrepreneur since when? Like, what would you consider? Like, when did you start?
When I started the company is when I actually started officially, which was 6 years ago.
Right.
In 2016, August is when I had the idea, and December is when we launched.
Yeah.
But even when I was younger, I was in the entrepreneurial mindset, and I've heard stories, and I was always intrigued by it. But really officially practicing it, doing it myself was, I guess August 2016.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I guess I'll be starting mine soon, I guess.
Yeah.
It sounds fun.
It'll be exciting.
Sounds challenging.
It's not going to be easy, but it'll be a heck of a ride, and you'll never regret it. And you'll look back and you'll say, I lived my life and I learned so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm a way better person now.
Yeah. And the upsides too. Like, there's no ceiling, right? Like,
the sky's the limit.
You can be as successful as you work to be.
Yeah.
There's no like corporate entity saying, no, you can't be successful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Cool.
You want to wrap it up?
Yeah. I'm going to end off the podcast with a fun question.
Okay.
What are some things you do to practice mindfulness? Give me the top thing.
What do you mean by mindfulness? What does that mean to you?
Mindfulness to me means staying in tune with who you are, your emotions, and your thoughts and your feelings, and being able to sit with it instead of running away from it. And you talked a lot about that.
Yeah.
About how your content, a lot of people that are consuming it probably are running away from their emotions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, the number one tangible thing, like the thing that has saved my life multiple times, and like it's the reason that I am who I am, is the gym. Like that, the gym is the most important part in my life. Yeah, hands down. Like, anyone who asks me for advice, or people come to me like, hey Ty, how do I study better? My first answer, is go to the gym.
Yeah.
Go to the gym, because you learn so much about yourself in the gym. You learn grit. You learn how to push past a healthy level of pain. You learn tolerance. You learn how to sit with your own thoughts. You learn so many things, and that's not even to mention the physical benefits.
Yeah.
Like this is setting aside like the obvious physical benefits of increasing your muscle mass. The cognitive benefits are ridiculous.
Yeah.
The clarity of mind that I achieve after working out is next to none. Like I noticeably feel a difference if I don't go to the gym.
Yeah.
So that is my number one piece of advice, and that is what has the gym as a whole, holistically, is what keeps me grounded in reality, and is how I practice mindfulness. Like it's so necessary.
Yeah.
For anyone, and it astounds me that people don't know about the positive benefits. They just think the gym is, you know, the superficial, like I gotta look good, I gotta, you know, work on my butt, work on my arms. Like no, you work on your health, mental and physical, in the gym.
Yeah.
And the consequences of working on your health are you look fucking great.
Yeah.
So it's like, that is how I treat the gym.
Yeah.
I go to be healthy, and a byproduct of being healthy is you look good.
Yeah.
So many people have it the other way around. They go to the gym to look good.
Yeah.
And they get trapped in this, like, they get trapped or they don't get trapped. They run away from it. They're like, I hate this. Like, I don't need to look good.
They can't be consistent. Yeah.
You can't be consistent if you're just going for looks. You can't. But if you're going for things larger than looks, if you're going for your mental clarity, if you're going for your emotional stability, if you're going for your pain tolerance, like, then the gym like opens up. It's like, oh yeah, I'll go to the gym.
Yeah.
I want all of these benefits. Yeah. Like, it's the best like pill that you could possibly take. Like, people are looking for like an all-in-one like health pill, like what'll fix my life. The gym is that. It's literally that. Like, it's ridiculous how many people don't go to the gym. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I love that. That is literally what I did to change my mindset after I got COVID.
Yeah.
I was like sick in bed for 2 weeks, and I was always inconsistent with the gym because I went to the gym for the looks. And after I got so sick, I started going to the gym because of my health.
Yes.
And I never stopped going.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a shift that needs to be made. Like, it's like so important.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't care how blunt I sound, like get in the fucking gym, because like your life depends on it. Like, you're looking for the magic pill. The magic pill is the gym. Just walk into the gym every day. You don't even need to do anything, right? Like, if you don't want to do anything, just the act of like stepping foot into the gym every day at a scheduled time is already accruing benefits.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, you know, take it slowly. Go to the gym, walk on the treadmill for 5 minutes, then freaking leave. That's it. If you do that every day, you at least have built a foundation of like some sort of routine. At the very least. Like, there are other things that will come from that, but
yeah,
do the bare minimum at least. You know, if you're not doing the bare minimum, then I can't help you.
Yeah.
You know, you're not gonna do the bare minimum. And I guess that's kind of what I preach a little bit in my content. It's like, just do something.
Yeah.
Like, wake up. You know, like, just be present for a second. And that's what my content, I think, tries to do. That's, I'll wake you up for a second, and then you go back to sleep, but at least I woke you up. And maybe there's a chance that I've accomplished something in that act of waking the viewer up. And I have. People comment all the time, and they direct message me being like, hey man, I really needed that video.
Yeah.
Or
yeah, I see some of your comments. People are,
yeah, they're like, oh hey, hey,
really
I really needed this video.
yeah,
Because it wakes people up. It's just a fucking slap in the face, because no one does that shit anymore. Everyone's too soft. You know, like, the world is too soft, and there's no one. there's no good entity that will speak their mind freely for the sole purpose of the benefit of the viewer. No one does that, relatively speaking. Like, there are people that do that, but it's probably like 0.1% of people.
Right.
And that is the kind of person that is blowing up on social media right now. It's the people that speak unbiasedly, just trying to help people.
Yeah.
Because they're in such a good place themselves. Those are the people that really do well. And that is where my success has stemmed from. That is where the creators in my realm have stemmed from. It's just people giving value because they want to help people. And they do it in a blunt way. Not no soft like bullshit like oh, you can go to the gym if you're feeling good. No, none of that. Shut the fuck up, get in the gym, fix yourself so that you don't die. It's like you get one life, and it's not like it's fucking people play this game like they have millions of lives, but that's not true at all. You have one life, and I'm so lucky that I adopted this mentality at a young age. Ever since I could think consciously, I've had this severe realization that you have one life, and I've never fucked it up, knock on wood. Like, I've never done anything that would jeopardize the one life that I've had. Ever. Never. Not once. Like, never. Because it's you get one, right? It's like there's no point in playing with fire if that means you die, because then you don't wake up. So don't fuck it up and get your shit right, you know.
I love that.
Yeah, that's what I got to say.
Cool. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yes, of course.
I'm sure people listening or watching learned so much from you.
Where
can people stay in touch with you?
Just social media. Ty Perigo. That's we stopped recording, I hope. Fuck, what the fuck. Whatever, we still got the audio.
Okay.
Ty Perigo. ty.farrago on all platforms pretty much.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Yes, of course.
I'm excited.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.